Hello friends, my name is Ty here, and we are back with another Q&A coming from Techland. We're covering the second half of episode 1, questions 5 through 8, and anyways, let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. Question 5 is all about the grappling hook, and if it's the same one from the gameplay we saw back in 2019, or more similar to the original game's grappling hook. From what we've seen, the hook is now more of something used to swing off of, like a rope, like Tarzan style. We haven't seen any situations or scenarios where it's used to climb or anything like that, but I assume there's going to be many ways to apply it during parkour and combat, like using it to knock over a few barrels or pull someone in your direction. Timon says the thing most important to them when designing the new grappling hook is to make it as natural and realistic as possible. So no more flying across the map like we would in the first game. But I'm totally okay with this change. In my first playthrough in Dying Light 1, once I unlocked the grappling hook, I relied on that more than my actual parkour skills, but to have it implemented into the parkour more is a nice change to see. Question 6. Someone asked if there will be vehicles in the game, and if they're usable in the main game area, for which the lead game designer kind of says no. There's that one mission we've all seen where we can take over the van and threaten the pothead driver, which gives us the opportunity to drive or let him take us to our destination, which we've seen the result of. But it seems this is the only mission this is possible in, which is really surprising. It almost seems like they're retracting their statements about vehicles being in the game, or I've simply misunderstood, but I thought there was a limited play space to drive vehicles in. It might just end up being a missed opportunity in the end, but I suppose Timon is right. The soul of the game is in the traversal, so developing mechanics for cars you only use a couple times throughout your playthrough is really unnecessary, so I understand. Now on to a more juicier question, being question number 7. A community member asks how many choices you have that actually changed the world and the story. We didn't get an exact number of decisions, but Timon broke down the system and probably the easiest way to explain it. I think it's best if you hear it from Timon himself.
In Dying Light 2, you make choices, you make decisions on 3 different levels. So the first one, as you can say, the upper one, the top one, is a number of main story choices, a few of them, which really change how the story flows and what kind of ending you will get when you finish the whole experience. Then the second level is choices and decisions you make inside side quests or even main quests that mostly have consequences that are contained within those quests, within those missions, or quite often they also influence the world. An example of this is in one of the quests you can, for example, save an opera singer. If you do that, if you make a correct choice, then she appears in one of the hubs, in one of the safe zones in the game, and starts singing. And the third level is the so-called city alignment system. And this is a system where, based on your choices, one of the factions takes control over specific areas of the city. So when they do that, of course, they install their forces, they install a lot of different things that belong to that faction, and some of the things are the things that you can use in gameplay. So, for example, if you play with the peacekeepers, they start installing so-called combat helpers, combat traps that you can use while fighting with bandits or infected or whatever. If you side with survivors and you give parts of the city to survivors, they start installing things like zip lines and trampolines and other stuff that makes the traversal easier. So depending on your choices, you can also shape the gameplay space, the gameplay environment, and have a different experience depending on what you do.
Timon really went in depth here, giving some good examples as to what we could see and how we can have a substantial impact on the world we want to shape. These hub areas will just be another version of a safe zone, I assume, maybe with the option to get new tasks and side quests. There may be one main one though that plays out sorta like the tower, as if it's your main zone to return to. It's cool to see how the faction impact can convince certain groups to put up new ways of traversal, like zip lines or trampolines, so there's definitely many benefits in who you side with. The final question for the day's AMA is how diverse are the regions in Dying Light 2? Timon goes on and speaks about the city's scale, and there are 2 main areas in the city, with one being more similar to Old Town while the other is more like a downtown area with large skyscrapers. Within those regions, there are 7 zones we've known about for quite a while I call sectors periodically, but according to Timon, we can assign a faction to different zones, which is interesting to think about. For example, if we side with the scavengers in a specific zone, they'll rebuild the buildings into places to grow crops, create bakeries, and other small communities. If you choose to side with the peacekeepers though, as we've seen in the concept art and all the trailers, their way of doing things is very militaristic, so they build barricades and outposts to fight off whoever gets in their way. And that wraps up everything spoken of here today. There was a lot of information to process and take in, so I'm pretty happy with the info dump we got here today. The more they communicate, the more good to come from it, because in my eyes, staying silent is sometimes a bad sign in the industry. or sometimes it can mean time is being taken to ensure the level of quality equates all throughout the project. There's many ways to look at it. Taking their time to make the best version of their vision possible is important, and I wish Techland luck in making their ideas come to life. I have a good amount of faith in them, so I wholeheartedly hope they pull it off and make the best game they can. Anyways, thanks for watching. I always appreciate those that tune in and listen to what I have to say to the very end. Be sure to hit that like and sub button if you want, and stop by for whatever topics we cover next time. And my name's Ty, and peace.